you may have told me that you didn't have enough time.
And the fact is you have. And as it grows, you get more time. We came off the programme, we sent the letters out, we got quite a few back. We sort of did the telephone calls, met, I think, 5. And then one guy, you know, you could tell he was genuine. He had a really genuine reason for sale. He wanted to be an ambulance driver because he'd ran his business for 20 years and he was tired, right? It was an area of what I already did in my other life. But, you know, it was e-commerce, which I'd never touched and we wanted to get into. So, yeah, we agreed terms and just pushed it all through. I think it's probably about 8 weeks in end. In the original business I had, we've sort of almost not parked it, but we've cut that down now to focus on e-commerce. So it's not just the biggest part of the business. It's, you know, our branding and everything is all about e-commerce now.
Oh, interesting. So
it's actually shifted the whole group.
Yeah, so it's changed the focus of the group.
Yeah.
And I believe that you may have told me that you didn't have enough time to buy a business.
Yeah, that was one of the first things. I remember going up to the table and said, look, I'm really interested, but I'm busy. I haven't got enough time to do this.
I remember talking to you.
Yeah. And the fact is you have. The reality is, and as it grows, you get more time. You know?
Exactly. In actual fact, when you grow your business by acquisition and you have a bigger business, then you can invest in a management team
100%.
That gives you more time. So the people who have the least amount of time are the people who are running the smaller businesses doing a bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, when I look back, I used to obviously the sales, I used to do account management, I used to deal with the accounts in Xero, ringing the accountants, helping do the company returns. I don't do any of that now. We've got an MD in place who's, to be honest, better than I was at running it.
Well, that's always the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
You hire people better than you, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. We've got a lady who was in one of the companies we acquired, who at the time was an admin, and we just realised she was amazing, and now she's a director of the company and pretty much runs all the day-to-day stuff. Yeah.
Very good.
And then one of the co-directors of the original company, she sort of runs the operations, and all I'm doing now is coming in when they need it. If they say, can you come in for a chat through something, we just want your opinion. And I'm literally in the last quarter said I'm going to do about a day a week focusing on acquisitions again.
If you want to find out how to buy a business successfully, get your free business buying toolkit. The link is in the video description below.
You say to someone who's concerned about making sure that the business is run properly by someone else and it doesn't involve them.
I mean, it depends on the situation. If there's someone already running a company, they should sort of look at what they're doing now and go, well, why am I doing everything? Why can't the business afford people in it to help run it so I can step back and do other things and grow and focus on growth? Mm-hmm. So that's the first question. And then if you're already doing that, then you can look at your model and question that on the model of another business. So that's the questions you ask, what's the team? How's the business working?
Yes.
And, I did a phone call last week and I was like, so what happens when you're not here? Who runs it from your point of view?
Good question.
Just ask the question and be upfront about it. And the secret is, and again, it's back to doing the sort of 12 months with you, was you don't get yourself attached to any of the businesses while you're in that process of negotiation, because, that the whole, would it be all right? It'll be all right. It just won't. I fell for that once. I got quite attached to a business, bought it, and it wasn't great, and it was a good learning curve.
Sure. It
was actually a learning curve to buy assets, not shares of that one, but I got too excited, right?
Oh, did you? So you bought the shares rather than the assets? But if you bought the assets,
the business would have been fine. I could have created a new co, removed all the debts with HMRC and VAT, and that would have been enough to sustain it. So, yeah, but that was okay.
But this is all part of you live to fight another day,
and we had warranties, right?
Yeah,
and
there was undisclosed stuff. I mean, if you're going to do multiple deals, there's always going to be one in there that wasn't as good as the others.
100%. And you have to look at the positives. It was another one we got over the line. It was another one we found. And on paper, you go, okay, there was a position there. Mm-hmm. And then when it came to the reality, that position was different. And you think, well, what will I do different next time? And what I would do different next time was in the period between initial conversations and diligence, because this one dragged on a bit, back to what we said earlier. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would sort of go, right, actually, let's just put another bit of effort into make sure the business is the same as it was 2 months before, 3 months before, I think it was. Because a lot can happen in quarter of a year with a business.
Yes.
And if we'd have done that, we'd have realised in that 3 months, there was things put on credit cards which weren't there before, e.g. HMRC and VAT.
Okay.
So
you're saying that the financials that you saw took you up to a certain date, but the business had declined since then, but that wasn't so visible to you.
Yeah, it wasn't visible at all until we signed it. But we had warranties in place. We had all things in place to say, we're buying this. And if it's not this, and we discover this within 90 days, any debts come off the purchase price
Absolutely.
of the business.
And don't you have, I seem to remember when we talked about this before, that you've got a very neat way of not paying anything for the first 90 days.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So we always say with a business, because we don't, I always use the analogy, and I think it's probably one I've stolen from you, but...
Are you going to quote me back to me?
Yeah, I am, yeah. But, when you buy a house, it's got 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a garden and a drive. And when you turn up, if one of the bedrooms is missing, you're going to be miffed. A business is the same, apart from you can remove the bedroom, right? It's a moving object. So, and we're quite firm with it. We say to people, when we buy the business, before we pay any initial payment, we want a period, and we always try 90 days to make sure the business is what you've told us it is, because we feel that anything which will come out of the woodwork will come out within 1 quarter of a year. And we get pushback from it, but then we just say no. It's like, no, that's how we do it. We don't need to buy anything.
And people do struggle sometimes with saying no, don't they?
Yeah.
And people struggle with pushing back, and they don't want to offend the seller, and they want to make sure everyone is all friendly. And I think it's important to keep a cordial relationship. There's no point falling out with the seller. That's not going to get you the deal. But you do need to know when to stop and to say no and to ask for something in return, because it's all a negotiation, isn't it?
It is. I mean, a perfect example was 18 months ago, we really got quite deep into diligence with the company. We got a valuation done via our accountants and gave them a document, published it and said, this is why your company is worth this. And they said it's not enough, which is not, that's okay. Sure. That's fair enough. I'm just saying that's what it is. We walked away, and I said, look, if you change your mind in the next 12 months or 18 months, come back to us. Because they, like any seller, they said, oh, well, we're going to build the business up. Almost, we'll show you how much we can make this worth. They came back about 3 months ago and they said, look, the business is a better place. Our turnover's gone up. We've got this. And I looked at it. They sent me the accounts, and I was like, this is worse than it was. I was like, you are turning over more, and I get that. But, your margins have gone from sort of 38% to 1 or 2%. And they had all the reasons in the world. But I sent it to the accountant, and the business was valued at about a quarter of what it was a year before.
Right.
And I rang them, and it was all friendly, and they're lovely people. But I said, look, one, we can only buy it on what, the version you can see documented of basically EBITDA says. And I said, but also a business a year ago might have had a 5 times or 6 times or 7 times value. But with the recession coming, that's gone down to 3 or 4. The market's moved, it's 3 to 4 times. I said, you should have sold it me a year ago. So we've walked away again, and that's okay.
People say, I've spoken to some owners and they want these incredibly high prices. What do I do? How would you answer that question?
Well, I met a business about 3 weeks ago, quite local to where I am, which was quite nice, in a similar space into e-commerce and things. And the guy, they're lovely. They were lovely people. The guy was great, ran it for ages. But, he literally was, he said, I was offered 3 million in cash plus deferred consideration only 6 months ago, and I turned it down. And I just said, well, that's crazy. You should have taken it. I said, that's a life-changing amount of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's like, no, it's not enough. Now the business turns over about what our group turns over, which isn't that. And I was just like, to be honest, if that's your starting point, I said, it's great to talk to you, it's lovely, but there's no point even carrying on talking about buying the business. Let's just talk about business in the Southwest in general. And he's a great guy, and he said, yep, understood. But it was just too far removed. I mean, I think if they're closer and you can justify and say, this is the risk we're taking, or you can offer sort of olive branches of, if you're saying it's worth this and you want that much because it's going to get to a point, you can offer them, percentages of profit for the next 3 years, or
exactly,
things like that. There's lots of options there. I try and explain to people, we can only buy what we can see now. We don't buy a gamble on the future.
Buying a business is a roller coaster, which is why you need a lawyer who knows what he is doing. So why not use mine? His name is John Andrews, and you can find his contact details below this video.
If we take that first business that you bought as a case study, if you can cast your mind back 5 years, once you'd bought it, what did happen next?
To be honest, for probably 6 to 9 months, we got the owner. We were going to keep him on for a bit. It is a sort of ad hoc contract, so that didn't work, which we knew it wouldn't. We kept it just business as usual. They stayed in their office with their same team, with their same clients, and I spent quite a lot of time with them, just getting my head into how they were running, what they were doing, what we liked, what we didn't like, and things like that. So yeah, we monitored it for a while, understood it, and then after a while, once we didn't want to ruffle the feathers too much, so after about 9 months, we said to the team, right, we're going to move the office because we've got a bigger office and we're going to put everyone in together. We think that'd be good because they've got a different skill set to you and you should all bounce off each other and learn things. So we did that in a positive way. And obviously we did all the usual things, the accountants and the bookkeeping was all merged into one instantly just to save all that. And then after we moved into the office, that was the big culture change. I think, we tried to that's when we formed the actual group name rather than 2 separate companies. We formed Nice Group and said, look, everyone's going to be part of this one thing. You're all going to mix the projects up with some of these other ones in this. It took longer than we thought to do that. But then bringing in new people and promoting existing people into sort of more senior roles, that's the bit that turned it. So instead of being, you're the people who bought the business, it was like this new person's coming in to run the business. And I think that really made everyone sort of sit up a bit and go, okay, right, so there's a new management team coming in. And I think I think that's the whole thing. There's a culture difference between, we just bought your company. We're not that guy anymore. We're the new version of that guy. Right, it's all working. Well done, everyone. And we did things, we got them new machines. Everyone got some pay rise because they were doing quite well and some training and all that. So we did lots of things, we added in flexi time and things like that and work from home policies and all that sort of stuff just to make everyone feel like it's a positive move.
Yes.
But then it was like, right, okay, that's all done now, but everyone falls back into business as usual.
Did you sense a difference in the culture between the two businesses? Did it feel different in some way?
I would say they felt more different than you could ever imagine.
Oh, really?
At first, yeah. I was shocked at how 2 businesses doing very similar. I mean, basically, they all build websites, whether it's e-com or not. They're still websites. The fundamental, even the terminology people use for the same thing was just completely different. And it was interesting when we got them in. I said, right, the point is, guys, can you all sit next to someone you don't really know and do this? They all sat in exactly the same positions they were in the old office, but just in a bigger office, separate. So then we had to go, no, you'll sit in there, and now you'll sit in there, and like school children. In a way.
I suppose they are going to be different because different people hired them.
Yeah.
So you're going to hire people that you think are right and you think are a good fit and you like, because we're unlikely to hire people we don't like.
No, that never happens.
And then the other owner did exactly the same thing. So there's going to be sort of 2 different, even though everyone designs websites, builds websites, there's going to be 2 different approaches in terms of attitude towards that.
And even the technologies they use. There's such a vast array of things to pick and choose from we're going to base our company on this. And they both use a similar tech, but it was different variations. So, but they all picked bits off each other, you know. And now it's sort of all is one. I mean, that's all gone now. Everyone just works.
Enough time has passed. Yeah. It's not thought of as 2 separate companies. But it sounds like you got it right.
I mean, it took a lot longer than we thought, and it was a lot more effort. But I think, bringing in some new hires, any churn in any business, I think we've lost 2 people in the 5 years. Which
that's incredible.
It's pretty good. And gently reminding people what they've got now compared to what they didn't have before. Yeah. They've got a much nicer office. They've, they have much daft things. They've got much a better coffee machine. Right?
Sure. But it counts. It counts a lot.
They've got a work from home policy, So
I had people quit because the kettle didn't work.
Yeah.
That was the reason they gave. They said, you said you were going to fix the kettle. You didn't live up to your promises. I don't even remember mentioning the kettle, but the kettle becomes the point of contention.
Yeah, yeah, but it's that day-to-day thing. Is basically what they're saying in inverted commas is you don't care about me, isn't it?
Yes, they do things their own way. That's what you mean, isn't it?
Yeah.
They do things their own way.
The way they've always done it.
The way they've always done it. And you don't keep everyone together on the same path. And if you're trying to build a business, you need consistency.
Yeah, you need to have the same consistency in terms of people and their attitude. So it's got the same culture.
Yeah.
But also in the same, if it's run the same, it's easy to measure things, isn't it? If everything's in an ad hoc way. I've had big conversations this week about, a business and ad hocness just being the killer. Because everyone spends their time. It takes more time to make things up as you go along than it does to follow a process.
But it's interesting how sometimes staff respond quite badly to that. They say, well, we don't want to be, we're not robots. We can't all do things the same way. But imagine the staff of a McDonald's saying, oh, we're going to do these burgers how we think we should do the burgers, It just doesn't work.
No.
And you see, I was in a little Italian deli on Saturday lunchtime, and it was chaos in there. And I was actually there for 30 minutes before I got my food. And I thought, what they're lacking here is a manager, because half a dozen young people didn't seem to have any direction. A manager who says, we take the order, we do this, customers happy.
Yeah, you do that, that. It's, again, everything comes down to a process.
Yeah.
And a repeatable process at that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, and I think that was the problem, even with just having, I think 14 people, because there was the team I originally had and the people from the other companies. There was the one company bought where it was more contracts and a sales guy. He was just so used to doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, and we'd be like, right, we've got a CRM system, because that's how we measure
salespeople are the worst.
Yeah. Don't. If only we could sell stuff without them. But we say, look, if we can't measure how many calls you're making, exactly, yeah, e-commerce, sell everything via online, you'd have to speak to a human. But if you could measure everything and say, right, if you make 50 calls, we always know that will be 4 or 5 deals, right? We always know, and you always know, and we always know when we can recruit, right? We know how much money we're going to make, what's going to come over the line in the next few months. It's not rocket science.
I know.
And then you say, so how many people you rang? 20. Right. Is it 20 or is it 10? Or is it 1?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. It's probably about 18. Is it 18 or is it 1? Well, actually, I think about 12 I've rang. You're like, right, if we keep talking about this, will it end up? Why isn't it in the CRM? And then I wouldn't have to ask you this question. You wouldn't be looking at me really
Getting salespeople to record things.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a struggle.
And I'll tell you what, this is what bringing in the MD, he's so good at implementing that stuff.
That's good.
It's really amazing. Even down to just developers are rubbish at timekeeping. It's a thing. It's in the culture. Just getting people to do that and just understanding, right? Mm-hmm. But then also putting the clients into a process, our existing clients, and saying, if you commit to us for the next 18 months, that allows me to recruit more, and that means we can do more for you, and you'll sell more. And they can't argue with it. So all of our bigger clients now, whereas before it was sort of retain business and stuff, this guy's, come in and just gone, actually, I can guarantee income for the next 3 years, which what do we all want with the value of a business, right? We want annual recurring revenue.
That surely must that must allow you to go on holiday and not have to worry. Probably still think about the business, but not worry about it.
Yeah, not panic that it's all going to fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, all of this is, and again, it's a sort of secondary benefit when you acquire a business, knowing I've got this guy now, I know however they're running, he's going to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because that's what he does. Because if you can't measure something, you can't understand if it's going well or not, right? But he's putting all this stuff to go, actually, he would say to me, oh, last month we ran it 47% efficiency. I was hoping to get to 60%. And he's there just going, oh, really sorry, mate. And I was like, yeah, but 3 months ago, we didn't know what that percentage was.
And it's better than if you were there doing it yourself. And you don't want to be there doing it yourself.
Exactly. And we also, when he came in, in the sort of business buy mindset, we said, let's make a 100-day plan for you. You're the MD. I said, treat it as if you've come in and taken over, because that's what you have. You haven't actually bought it, but so we did the 100-day plan.
Yeah.
Down to, right, we've got to get him on the bank. We've got to get him, on company's house. We've got to do this. But also, the process is, what do you need to learn in that 100 days? So that same principle of buying a business we sort of implemented with bringing in the MD.